Good morning. Welcome to Ask Coffee Online. My name is Chef Caesar. Today I want to prepare for you beef brisket. I'm gonna make corned beef. I'm gonna make a brine, so you can do this at home. Since we got St. Patrick's Day around the corner, if you want to try this, it's very easy to cure piece of brisket here that I have. I'm gonna go through the whole process, and the reason why they call it corned beef is not because there's any corn involved in the curing process, because in the old days, even nowadays, you can still use rock salt, which is a large grain, and they use it. They call it corn salt. That's the reason why the name kind of got stuck. But again, it's very popular throughout the United Kingdom and in countries with a like British, culinary influence. So again, I'm gonna use a few ingredients like you see here. I got some fresh garlic, some kosher salt, some brown sugar, pickling spice, which I'm going to talk about what's in here. There's the different spices you probably have at home, but you can also buy it pre-packaged or pre-mixed. But I got some that I'm going to explain to you what's in there, and also some curing salt. This is also called sodium nitrate. The reason we use this is to inhibit the growth of bacteria, especially botulism, when we are curing meats. Also keeps the meat nice and red. This is why when you see like corned beef that's been cooked, and it's really nice and has a bright red color. This is the reason why they use some sort of nitrate, and also prevents, like I said, the growth of bacteria. Penetrates the meat. And it's the reason behind curing meats in all this was to preserve the meats to be used later on. And kind of the tradition is staying because back then there was no refrigeration, so they had to find a way to keep the product to be used later. Also during the World Wars One and Two, this meat was very popular because the fresh meat was rationed. So they had to use this meat because they could be preserved for a while, and then also it was widely used. So let's start by making a brine. I'm gonna come back and trim the meat a little bit, and you will see that this is very simple to do. And again, the part of the animal where this brisket comes from is the breast part, the upper part and the lower part. And some of these pieces could be this one tiny piece. A whole piece could be between 12 and 15 pounds. Normally we get these big pieces at the restaurant, and you will see that when they prepare for the restaurant packaging, they don't take a lot of fat off because they want to sell the weight too. So it's sold by weight, so the more fat it has in there, the more it's gonna weight, and also you're paying for that. But at home, you want to take off as much fat as you can. The way when you cook this, it kind of turns really mushy and doesn't look good. So I'm gonna show you a little bit. So we're gonna start by doing our brine here. We're gonna start with some kosher salt here. Okay. I got some brown sugar. We're gonna simmer this. We're gonna simmer all these ingredients together. So some pickling spice here, and I'm gonna go over what's in this. If you want to buy this already packaged like this or pre-mixed, you can, but otherwise you can make your own. I'm going to have the recipe in there for you, how to put it together. I'm sure you have all the ingredients that it takes in your spice rack. And now I'm going to put the sodium nitrate, this tank salt. Okay. Now I'm going to put some water here. Okay. I'm going to turn I want to make sure I'm going to. And you guys are gonna get the recipe for this with the measurements. I'm using a smaller piece of meat, so I kind of had to readjust the recipe. But the original recipe is for about 5 pounds of meat. So we want to bring this to a simmer. Make sure you dissolve the sugar really good. And one more thing, before we can add this to the meat, we'll make sure it's cooled down all the way. I got a nice bat back here, but you want to take it off the heat. Let it cool down. Maybe put it in the refrigerator. You don't want to start cooking the meat before you have to. So this should be very cold before you submerge the meat in there and brine it. Normally you want to leave it for about 5 days, depending on how big the piece is. This piece about 5 days. If it's really huge, maybe 5 to 7 days is the most you want to leave it in there. Now I'm going to talk about what's in the pickling spice. Okay, so you can see I got a bunch of spices here. This is some cinnamon, whole cinnamon here. This is some crushed bay leaf, black peppercorn, whole, some crushed red pepper. I got some juniper berries right here, and these are allspice berries. They're a little different. These are very soft. Okay, see they kind of they crack really easy. This is a little harder to crack, but you can if you have this at home, you can put a mix together. This is whole cloves. This is some coriander seeds over here. Or this comes from the cilantro plant. It's the same thing, but we call it coriander seeds once the seeds are like this. And this is some mustard seeds. So you have if you have all the ingredients at home, you can make a mix like this. Just take 1 tablespoon of each and combine it together. You want to crush it a little bit to kind of bring out the flavors. Also, if you want to toast them a little bit too. If you have some time, like the cloves, the berries, the hard, like the peppercorns, you want to kind of toast them in the pan. That way you bring the flavors out. You know, you're gonna get the oils going. This what's gonna give you a lot of flavor. But we need to simmer those for a little bit, bring it to a simmer, and then we're gonna cool down this mixture to a very cold. I'm gonna do it quick. I got an ice pad back there. You can do this at home, or if you wanna put it in the refrigerator, make sure it's very cold before you add this mixture to the meat. Okay, and once you have it, the meat in there, you wanna put some kind of weight over the meat to kind of submerge the meat underneath the brine. So you want to have it completely submerged in order for this to work. Otherwise, it's going to be sticking out. You can put some heavy plates over the top and keep it refrigerated for 5 days, and then you're going to be ready to cook that. So let's put this aside while we have this our brine here simmering to bring out all the flavors. We're going to trim this meat a little bit. Like I say, this is about 3 pounds. Okay, 3 pound piece. So we're gonna trim some of this fat off because you don't want to brine it with all the fat. So try to take as much you can here. The only reason if you would leave the fat on, if you were doing this for pastrami, then you would want to leave some of the fat in there to kind of help when you're in the cooking process. Also, if you were making barbecue with this, you don't want to take the fat off because the fat's going to help to keep the meat moist when it's like slow cooking. So, but since we're going to be boiling this, we don't need all this fat. As you can see, you can have quite a bit of fat in here. I mean, corned beef is very popular in like corned beef sandwich. You guys are gonna be doing some of your sandwich section. You need to make a Reuben sandwich with done with corned beef. So if you wanna try to do this for the class, feel free. You're definitely it's gonna help you. You're gonna learn a lot, and this is very easy to do. As you can see, it's not very hard. So you just wanna do it. That should be good enough. Okay. As you can see, it's a nice piece of meat. It's only got some fat on top. The bottom has been trimmed already, so it's nice and lean here. But again, you want to take as much fat as you can off the top. So this way, when you cook it, it's not going to be like really, turns like to a really mushy. It doesn't look good. So you want to make sure to trim it as much as you can like this. And this is good enough now. Then we have our brine here. It's starting to steam here. I'm going to make my ice pad on here to help the cooling process, okay? And this is going to help a lot to cool down the liquid. And when you do that, you want to keep the liquid in the metal container. That way the heat is going to transfer much faster than if you put it in a plastic container. It's going to be like act as a barrier. So you don't want that. You want to keep it in the metal pot so it cools down much quicker. Okay, now I'm going to take the heat here. I'm going to cool it down. And then we're gonna add this to our the meat. Make sure it's cool down all the way. Otherwise, you don't want to be cooking the meat in the hot brine. Okay, now we have our brine cooling down over there. I'm gonna put this back in this big container, something like a big bowl, big enough to hold the meat, so we can put the brine in here and cover that. You can use a square dish if you have one at home. It works well too. So, and we can put some kind of weights over the top once we have the meat in there with the brine. And you want to keep stirring this to cool down much quicker. Since we don't have a lot of time, I need to like mix this, with my whisk, so it's moving around, and you're gonna cool down the mixture much faster. If you want to wait, you can always keep it in the refrigerator and do it later on. So whatever you want, but like I want to cool it down real fast, and this is how you do it in a nice bath. And anytime you make, for example, a soup or any food product at home, before you put it away, you should cool it down. And this is the fastest way to do it. Instead of keep it on the counter, it's going to take longer. So this is one of the fastest way to do it. Okay. I'm also gonna melt a little butter. I have some corned beef that I cooked before already ahead, so I'm gonna be plating one of those dishes for you, just to give an idea. Like corned beef and cabbage is very simple. So again, I'm gonna have a little butter here. It's gonna be for a little while. I'm gonna check back into my my brine here. Okay. So it's gonna take a little more. I also got a pizza I cooked already. I'm going to show you here. Once you are ready to cook that, and 5 days has been a brine, you want to take it out. Rinse it really good. You want to discard the liquid that you're going to brine it in. Rinse it out, and you're going to submerge it in water with some meal pods, some carrots, onions, and celery. And you want to add about 2 tablespoons of the pickling spice to the water, which you should have made left already and left over from that brining process. So you put about 2 tablespoons to the cooking liquid and boil that for about 3 hours until it's fork tender. And if you need more liquid, feel free to add some more. Sometimes you want to see that if the heat's too high, the water is going to evaporate and the meat it won't be done. But if you keep it covered at a medium heat, once you bring the liquid to a boil, turn it down to simmer, put a lid on so you kind of trap some of the steam. This is going to help you to cook the meat quicker again, and you're going to get a nice until it gets nice and fork tender. You don't want to overcook it, otherwise it's going to break up. And you can keep this the meat in the liquid once it cools down in the refrigerator for a few days. That way it won't dry up, or you can take it out, slice it, let it cool down, and use it for corned beef sandwiches or corned beef hash. There's a lot of different dishes you can create with this, but again, it's very simple to do. As you can see, now we're gonna check back and to see if my brine is cool enough to put over the meat. Okay. It's cooled down enough so I can put it in here. As you can see, if you're using a water bath with ice, it cools down very fast because the melting process of the ice and the cold water, it really brings down the temperature really quick in the brine, especially if you use in the metal pot. It will transfer the heat very fast. Okay, now that we have this brine cool down enough. Just gonna top it off. Put over the meat here. I did a little bit more than I had to because I was expecting to get a bigger piece, but as you can see, I got all my spices in there. And if you had a bigger piece that is going to float to the top, you want to put some weights. This one is staying down really nice, but sometimes you find if you got a lot of meat, it's going to come to the top, and you want to kind of press it down. And you want to keep it in this cover, maybe a square container, and keep it in the refrigerator for 7 days, 5 to 7 days, depending on how big the piece is. This one is, I will leave there for 5 days so the brine penetrates, and you get a nice flavor. It's nice and cured. You're going to get a lot of flavor from the liquid. And when it comes time to cook, and you want to use a container, a pot big enough like this one, to put a piece of meat in here, along with some carrots, some celery, some onions to boil this. So you want to have enough liquid above the piece of meat so it's not staying outside the water. You want to keep it submerged all the time when it's cooking. All right. So this is this will be big enough for this piece, but you know, if you need more, or you can also cook it in the oven. If you have a bigger piece of meat to cook, you can cook it in the oven the same way. You want to keep it covered with aluminum foil and put it in the oven about, you know, for 350 for about 3 hours or until it's tender. And you can see when it's done. You can poke it with your paring knife. If it comes out really soft, it's done. And you can also cook it that way if you have a bigger amount. You want to use like a roasted pan, and the same process apply, the same technique. You want to cover that with water and cook it in the oven as well. So you can do that. So as you can see, we have our meat in the marinade here. So like I said, we're going to let it sit here for 5 days, and you know, after 5 days, we can, you know, discard this water, and we're going to rinse it really nice under cold water and put some fresh water to cook it. So that's, you don't want to use this liquid when cooking the meat. And also remember, I told you put up 2 tablespoons of this pickling spice to the water where you're going to be cooking the meat. That way, you're going to bring a lot more flavor into the water, and again enhance the flavor of the meat as well. So that's how you normally do it, and it's really easy, as you can see. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's cooked. I got some corned beef that I already cooked before we started the show, because it takes about 3 hours, so I had to cook it for a while. And as you can see, it's a nice piece of meat here. Okay. I'm going to clean it up a little bit because there's some fat in there you don't want to serve. As you can see, this one, they left a lot of fat on, because when they sell it, they want to, you know, give you a lot of weight as a fat. And as you can see, I had some carrots in there. And you don't use this liquid of the carrots. You kind of want to discard that. But we want to clean it really good before we serve it. So we're going to take all this fat off. If you put it away like this, you're going to see the fat's going to be nice and solid tomorrow. So you can, you know, also leave it like this and clean it next morning when it's cooled down, so it's not soft. But if you need to serve it right away, like for corned beef and cabbage, you want to take as much fat as you can off this, because you don't want to be serving the fat to the customers. Okay, you can see, and as you can see, the meat has a nice red color, and this is from this sodium nitrate. They use that as well for this, and otherwise it turns a little brownish when you don't use sodium nitrate and you use regular salt. You can, but the color of the meat is going to be like more brownish. It's not going to be nice and red like you see here. Okay, as you can see, this is another piece here, like a little layer of fat in between. So you want to cut this out. Okay, otherwise you're going to be serving some fat too, and you don't want that. You see, there's some fat in between. That one is a nicer piece. It's a center piece. Doesn't have this layer of fat in the end. But you're going to see that a lot of pieces, they do have this in between. It's like a sandwich in between. So you want to slice all this fat out of here. Otherwise, texture is not good when you're chewing the fat. Okay, so we're going to clean this really good. Okay, you can see this. The meat's nicely done. Okay, I'm going to put this back in the liquid here. I'm going to clean my cutting board. Take all this fat, throw it away here. So I'm going to plate up some corned beef and cabbage for you here in a little bit. Okay. Okay. Also, when you slice this meat, you want to slice this against the grain. You don't want to cut across like this because, as you can see, how the grain goes that way. So you want to cut across. That way, it's going to be nice and tender. Okay. I might cut this piece off. That way, the slices are not that thick. Okay. So you can see how the meat's nice and red in the center. Look at that. Okay. Very nicely done. Cooked nice. Now I'm gonna put some cabbage in my plate here. Some Pickling potatoes, some cabbage, some carrots I cooked prior to this. And you don't have to do it like this. I mean, you can make Reuben sandwiches or just corned beef sandwiches as well. But you know, it's just an idea for you since we got St. Patrick's Day coming very soon here. You might want to do something like that. Okay, so I got a nice some nice carrots that cut up, peel, and same thing with some nice cabbage here. Melt some of this butter, and I'm gonna make a plate of corned beef and cabbage. Okay, let's see, cabbage is nice to cook. I got some nice carrots here. You can see. Make sure anytime you cut any vegetables for to cook like this, you want to cut them very uniform. Otherwise, you're going to see that the smaller pieces are going to cook much faster. So you want to think about knife skills. Remember that you want to cut the pieces very uniform all the time. Okay, now I'm going to cut some of my potatoes here. I got some fingerling potatoes. You can use potatoes, wax potatoes work the best because they hold the shape better. See there? And you got a nice purple potato here too. Okay, and you can get just regular yellow potatoes if you want, but these are nice presentation purposes. As you can see here, looks nice here. Look at that. I'm gonna put some of my piece of meat here. Nice slices. Fan them out. Look at that. Oops, go this way here. Okay. I'm gonna put a little clarify some butter that melted here. The top like this. Look at that. And then you got some nice corned beef and cabbage. A little garnish on top, and we're all set. Look at that. Very easy to do, right? Nothing to it. Very simple dish. You can start, by getting a piece of raw beef brisket, and you can marinate yourself. Brine it, keep it in the brine for 5 days. Boil it when it's ready to go, and you're gonna end up with some really nice meat like this one here. I cooked it this morning. It was brine for 5 days or a little longer than that. And again, it's something simple. And now you can do this at home, and you don't have to worry about purchasing some corned beef that's already done for you. You can make it yourself and learn a lot. So this is the whole idea behind doing this at home, that you can do the whole process, and you can see it's very easy. So again, I want to thank you for being here this morning. I will see you next week again. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.